Welcome back to the Hermitcraft FTB server. It's been several days since the last episode, and all I can say is I'm sorry about that. I had some stuff going on in so-called real life that had to take precedence and left me quite exhausted for several days. I have been in a half-asleep stupor ever since Wednesday afternoon. And only this morning, which is Friday morning, only now am I finally starting to feel like I might be awake for the duration. So, getting back to it here, and to be honest with you, this is the third time that I have attempted to record this episode. The first time was really short, and I didn't like the way it turned out, so I trashed it. The second time was, I think, pretty good, but I went to start editing it last night, and lo and behold, my microphone had been turned off for the entire 28-minute episode. And we all know just how much wonderful fun that is. So that's going in the bit bucket too. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the bee lab, the blab. Okay, I'm being silly. What the hell? Who cares? Anyway, things are progressing. You hear me say that a lot, don't you? Anyway, here's a news flash. I finally figured out how to automatically input sand into this acclimatizer. Put it down here and hook up an ME export bus to it, and it will output sand stack at a time into this thing, and these suckers will finally get treated. It's already at both 4. I want to go ahead and get it to both 5, and then when that bee is done, that princess or whatever, quit that. I have a stack of drones that need the same treatment. And then once that's done, they can go into the other cold box over here. This one that's in the cold and doesn't have anything in it. And they can go in there. Now, anyway, the centrifuges are missing from here. That's because I have moved them. Alright, to recap a little bit. I had been working on things, and I had something of a problem with lag, and I also had an interesting problem in the AE system. The part of it that is set up to automatically produce titanium plates. Basically, you put bauxite in one end, and it gets pulverized into bauxite dust. It goes into another machine that yields tiny piles of titanium dust, which get auto-crafted into piles of titanium dust, which go to the blast furnace, the industrial blast furnace, and get made into titanium ingots, and the titanium ingots then go over to a plate bending machine and turn into titanium plates. The problem is that I was pumping enormous amounts of bauxite into the system and not getting any titanium out. And so DMAC came over, and he proved he's the man, because with a little bit of diagnostics and checking this out and testing some things and looking at the way I had things set up, I had somehow managed to set it up so that all of the titanium was going to be immediately used to make mixed metal ingots, and therefore to make advanced alloys. And so, as a result of that, I now have 3,588 advanced alloys. I will never need to make them again. At least I would be surprised if I do. And that's where all my titanium has gone for about the better part of the last 2 months. That is criminal almost. But the system that makes advanced alloys has now since been disassembled. It's been disabled. and there are no more advanced alloys. Along the way, I had commented on how the big bottleneck in my B system was seed oil, because while I thought originally when I started I had a lot of seeds from my industrial whatever it is farms over there, it turns out that wasn't the case. I ran through all of that seeds really quickly, and the system was actually struggling. Every bit of seed oil was being used as fast as actually faster than it could be created. And so DMAC once again proves he's the man. He gave me a little something. Farmed drones. I put them in with some princesses, and the princesses became farmed queens eventually, after a few generations. And the farmed drones, you saw those green combs they make. Those dark green combs right there in the pipe, dark green combs, those are seedy combs. And one of the things you get from seedy combs when you put them in a centrifuge is seed drops. You put the seed drops in a squeezer and they become seed oil. And so, see, there just went another drop right there. So that is helping me fix up the problem with the seed oil thing, because the seed oil is being used very quickly to provide all of these alvearies with impregnated frames, which increase the production of all the bees and so on. But still, there was a little bit of a problem because the system was so far behind on the production of impregnated frames. It became necessary. What I decided to do last night is I shut down all of these alvearies. Well, not quite all of them, obviously, but I shut most of them down. Like, for example, here we've got cultivated drones. And you notice they're sitting in there. They're not being pulled out. That's because I've gone to all of these alvearies and I've turned off the energy pulsar. And it's going to stay turned off for a while, because that way all these things are fixed up with frames, and the only ones that need frames to be continually updated are the ones that are still active, which is the farmed drones. I have got 6 alvearies with farmed drones in them, and they are producing their seedy combs and their wheaten combs, which, by the way, the wheaten combs, when you process those, you get wheat, which is kind of cool. Now, down here, this is where my centrifuges are. I've got 14 of them down here. And each item, each centrifuge, is processing one kind of comb. Now, there is some duplication. Like, for example, there's at least 2 of them processing the wheaten, 3 of them processing the wheaten combs, because I'm getting so many of them. I've got one with the rocky combs, because every time I put a rocky princess in, I get a few generations of rocky combs, and I don't want them piling up in the system. And there's another one with wheat combs, and this one is doing silky propolis, which is used to make silk, which, you know, that makes the silk wisps. And the silk wisps are being auto-crafted into string. Okay, here's the seedy combs. And this is the silky combs, which also make the silky propolis, and so on. So things are going a lot better. I'm actually getting ahead of the game. If I can stop throwing things on the floor. 355 buckets of seed oil. And I'm probably going to put in a couple or at least 2 or 3 more alvearies with these farm drones in them. As soon as I build up a few more drones, I'm going to probably be doing that sometime very soon, until this pipe has a very steady flow of seedy combs in it. And so that's what's going on up here. things are much, much better. And I have DMAC to thank for that. And also for some of the things going on in here, as I said. You see, some of this stuff was set up very poorly. And I wasn't getting any titanium because it was disappearing as fast as it came in. But now, as you can see, I have 39 titanium plates, and more are forthcoming. I have another quarry running right now, and it should come up with plenty of bauxite, which will be ground into dust, which will be processed into tiny piles, thence into piles, and thence into ingots, and thence into, finally, titanium plates. That's a lot of go around to make titanium plates, but what the heck, it's working. Alright, the wood supply right now, I've got 2,300,000 logs. I've also got 650,000 charcoal. Now what I'm doing here, I've got an induction furnace, and anytime there is less than 10,000 charcoal, this thing is going to come on and start feeding logs into the induction furnace, which will run slowly at first, but as it continues to run, it will heat up and run faster and faster, and produce and transform those logs into charcoal. The charcoal is powering one of those boilers up topside, and it's actually running at a pretty good pace. Let me show you. Get over here. This one, solid fuel firebox, and you can see that each piece of charcoal is actually lasting a halfway decent time. When I first got this started, when it was cold, it was going through a piece, like 2 or 3 pieces of charcoal per second almost. And now that it's up to 1000 C, the fact of these boilers, when they get to full heat, they're a lot more efficient. And now that it's up to 1000 C, each piece of charcoal is lasting 2 or 3 seconds, which is better, a lot better. I'm still tempted to set one up firing it up with coal coke, because I think that would be an interesting experiment. The rest of these are running on the liquid, on the biofuel, producing steam, running the steam into an energy bridge and powering all this other stuff. This one is running the steam into a liquid tesseract, which is providing steam to power the quarry. Okay, let's see. So, anyway, definitely a big major appreciation to DMAC for the assistance he has provided in getting some things untangulated, and that's the best way I can put it, that some order into things where things are actually working a lot better. Now the thing with the wheat combs, because I've got so much wheat, and I mean I had 150,000 wheat to start with before I had the farmed bees. And so I decided that what I was going to do is change one of these fermenters to run off of wheat instead of saplings. So I've got this one running on apple oak saplings. This one is running on wheat, and it's doing pretty good. It's keeping up with the demand, and I still have 121,000 wheat, and it looks like the amount of wheat is increasing thanks to the bees working together with the farms. Okay, now I'm thinking I might want to increase the size of that tank and get a few more squeezers working the apples, because every time I hook this tank up to provide apple juice, even just providing it to one of the fermenters instead of both, I end up running out of apple juice pretty soon. So I'm thinking, make the tank bigger, put more squeezers on the apple duty. which means I'm going to need more apple production because I've got like 34,000. And from my experience, 34,000 apples is not going to last very long at all. So maybe a few more farms producing more apples. But anyway, things are working. Things are doing much, much better. But now I think it's time to start expanding things, and I'm going to expand this way. And what I'm going to be building in here is going to be, well, honestly, it's going to be another step on the road to fusion. You see, this machine here, industrial electrolyzer, it takes the bauxite dust, and one of the things it produces is tiny piles of titanium. It also produces some other things. Cells. Most particularly, it produces a lot of hydrogen cells. I've got almost, I think that's 72 or 78, or what, I can't quite read that. 7,200 or so hydrogen cells. It's a lot of hydrogen cells, basically. Now, the hydrogen cells, great. But what do you do with hydrogen cells? Well, I looked it up. And I have to, I'm not sure at the moment. I have to actually look it up again, even though I was looking at it just 20 minutes before I started recording. But the hydrogen cells get processed and, okay, deuterium. The hydrogen cells are used to produce deuterium. And the deuterium can be used to produce tritium. The deuterium and tritium are fuel for the fusion reactor. So I'm going to take some time. I'm going to open up a good sized room in here. I'm going to put down this glowstone brick floor and get ready to set up some machinery to process hydrogen cells into deuterium, and also to make more hydrogen cells, because that one machine, while it has made a lot, it's been running for 2 months. So I'm going to put some machines in to make more faster, and we're going to get this show on the road. I'm going to go ahead and take some time to do some digging, and I'll be back. Alright, I've taken some time here, made out some new space, nice and brightly lit from the floor, and I'm going to get set up to have more of these industrial electrolyzers hooked up in this area. And let's see, I think initially I want to have just one running to process hydrogen cells. I'll put one here. Well, no, put it here. Yeah. Have an alternating, have an empty space between them. Not because it's necessary, just because I want to. Just the way I want to lay them out. For the time being, I may change it. So, let's get industrial electrolyzer. Let's go ahead and make up 10 of them. I'm not going to need that many right off the get-go, but I'm going to start with them. Put 2 of them down. Alright, now get these blocks out from under them. And let's see, I need an export bus to send empty cells. No, wait a minute. No. Empty cells go in when you need empty cells, but these are going to be processing hydrogen cells. And if I hit U on this and I click my way over to the industrial centrifuge, it's going to take in hydrogen cells and no. Yeah. Just a second. That's an electrolyzer. Okay, yeah. Alright, now if I hit the recipe for this, I'll get it straight here, I promise. Industrial electrolyzer. You feed it water and cells, and you get hydrogen cells and compressed air cells. The compressed air cells, no big deal. I've already got a system set in place to convert those back into empty cells. The hydrogen cells, and why did I click away from that? Hydrogen cells. Click on those. Oh yeah, okay. Uses. The use of a hydrogen cell is to put it into an industrial centrifuge and get out deuterium and empty cells. So I'm going to put together 2 of these guys for the time being, and I will be feeding empty cells into the bottom, and I will have a golden waterproof pipe hooked up to it feeding water into it. So it will get empty cells and water, and it will produce hydrogen cells. So let's get some ME components here. Alright, let's make up some export buses. Import bus. A bit of cable. And let's make some more cable. And some more import buses. Just so that they'll be available. Okay, so we've got on here, we've got bauxite dust going in the top. You can input from the top, and the cells get input from the bottom. Alright. Export bus. Okay. Import through the back. Alright. Let me borrow some of those cells. And that will import cells, stack at a time. This will import cells, stack at a time. Alright, we're good there. Yes, I haven't run power yet, and yeah, I'm not thrilled about that prospect, because these things have a tendency to explode if you feed them too much. And that's why I have obsidian. I don't trust these things. I really don't. Okay, I won't have to input anything through the top because I'm going to be piping water in. Let's see. We need an aqueous accumulator. I've got the buckets already. And we have some golden waterproof pipe. That will work. Alright, let's set the accumulator nearby over here. Alright. Okay, it's starting to produce water. I can get another couple of buckets and fill in there later to make sure that it's got plenty. But for right now, we're feeding water into these machines. Alright, it's got water available. Alright. And they're still filling up too, I can see, so once they fill up, the pipe will fill and so on. I am going to get a couple of more buckets of water here to make sure this accumulator has enough to work with. Alright, now the big important part is hooking up power. So let's get some glass fiber, and I'm going to run from this line here and let's get the obsidian out here. I really don't care to have another explosion. And that if there is one, I'd like for it to have a minimal blast radius. Call me paranoid if you will, but alright. It seems to be going okay. Alright, let's get some ME cable. Connect up the system so that it will provide cells. Okay. I'm not seeing any cells going in. What the heck is going on here? Okay, that's an import bus taking stuff out of this thing, but let's make sure that's hooked up. That is hooked up. Move single or craft. Yeah, that's right. It has to be able to craft the cells. Alright. Now, what are we getting here? Looks like we're working, and this will increase the production of hydrogen cells. Next up, to set up a system in place to deal with converting hydrogen cells into deuterium. And it looks like I can take my obsidian chicken shield down. I admit it, that's what it was. I didn't want to get blown up. In earlier work with the industrial electrolyzer, I managed to get exploded, to have no less than 4 explosions, one of which destroyed an entire suit of quantum armor. And I then spent the better part of an afternoon replacing that. So you'll understand my unwillingness to risk explosion. Alright, let's run power to the second one. Run ME cable like so. And this one is now running. Excellent. So now we have increased the production of hydrogen cells. Now I need to actually, I need to get the water buckets for here, and then I need to spend a few minutes on a wiki looking things up, and then we will go from there to get production going, converting hydrogen cells to deuterium. Alright, got things pretty well figured out here, I think. Just had to confirm that I had things understood properly, and I also took the time to show the system how to make the centrifuge. because I'm thinking I'm going to eventually be needing a bunch of them. I'm going to start with 2. And rather than have to make them myself, I would rather let the system make them on demand. So we'll just set these things down here. And I'm using this setup as an example because they should work pretty much the same way. Alright, we've got import bus. We'll put those on the back. We have export bus, which we will put on the top. Now these machines run at 32 EU per tick, which is why I've got them over here on this line. If I put them over there, they'll explode because that's 128. Alright, ME cable, which I need more of. Yeah, that'll work. And now, I'll already have some. Good. Stack at a time, hydrogen cells. Stack at a time, hydrogen cells. And it is now processing hydrogen cells, and I will get empty cells and deuterium cells out of this. And I probably will set up some more of these, given how slow they seem to be running. Yeah, let's do that. Just get a bunch of these things running and start producing deuterium cells. And at some point I need to set up more and take some of the deuterium cells and start producing tritium, because deuterium and tritium are fuel for the fusion reactor. Alright, that's enough for right now. Let's get some more import and export buses. Okay. So we just hook the import buses on the back. Export buses on the top. And now set the export buses to move hydrogen cells. And it should be that simple. So we've got these machines processing the hydrogen cells, and here comes my first deuterium cell. Any day now. And of course the import thing's going to grab it faster than I can. Okay, deuterium cell, and the import thing didn't grab it. Well, I'm glad to know that now. Oh, of course it didn't grab it. It's not hooked up. Boom, there it goes. Okay. Alright, so we have deuterium cells, and these can be processed in more of these machines to make tritium cells. And what I'm going to need to do is to set up, I'm going to need to set up a tank somewhere, a couple of tanks, one of them to hold deuterium, another one to hold tritium, and I might look into this. I think I ought to look into the quantum tanks that hold like couple of million buckets or something like that, and run this thing to fill that, and basically have two setups like this, one producing deuterium to be tanked up, another one producing deuterium to be processed into tritium. And that will be the beginnings of what we need to power this reactor. And what did I put a torch down there for? This floor emits light. Anyway, things are progressing, and I'm actually making some forward progress here. This fusion reactor is gonna happen one of these days, and it might even be soon. In the meanwhile, I'm going to see about setting up some more of these, and probably some more of these, get some of the stuff processing into tritium, and some of it going into a liquid transposer, and from there into some kind of a tank setup to store it. In the meanwhile, something I need to do real soon is to get industrial grinders set up for processing ore, because of some of the things that you get from the industrial grinders when you process ore in the grinders, and get going with that and get another quarry set up and running. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'm out of here. We're going to get to fusion yet.